They insulted the black worker until he showed the medal she gave away. Hey, you black guy, pick that up, and hurry, we don't have all day. The insult cracked through the warehouse like a thunderclap, so sharp that even the humming machines seemed to hold their breath for a heartbeat. Metal clanked, boxes shifted, and the cold fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as dozens of workers froze mid-movement. And there, standing quietly beside a stack of crates, was Samuel Price, a tall black man in his late 40s, shoulders broad from years of labor, eyes gentle like someone who had learned to carry storms without letting the world hear thunder. He didn't react, not even a blink. He simply lowered himself, picked up the fallen metal rod with calm, steady hands, and placed it onto the pallet as if the world hadn't just disrespected him in front of 50 people. The supervisor smirked proudly, like he'd accomplished something, and a few workers shook their heads, some in disgust, some in fear, none brave enough to speak. But Samuel moved like a man who had learned that silence wasn't weakness. Sometimes silence was survival. Yet he wasn't invisible to everyone. Near the open office door stood Mia Reynolds, a 22-year-old trainee on her first day. Her clipboard trembled in her hands, though she tried to hide it under her long sleeves. She was supposed to observe policies, check inventory logs, learn the shift routines. No one had prepared her for the way her stomach twisted when she watched this man get spoken to like he was less than human. She felt something else, to something she couldn't name. Recognition, curiosity, pain. She didn't know. She only knew she couldn't look away from him. The way he breathed deeply through his nose as the insult washed over him. The way his eyes stayed soft, not bitter. The way he moved with a quiet dignity that didn't match the broken surroundings. This man wasn't ordinary. She could sense that in her bones. Then she noticed something strange. When Samuel bent down again, the top of his shirt shifted and a small metallic object slipped into view for a fraction of a second. A medal, old, worn, the ribbon frayed, but unmistakably treasured. Why would a man like him, treated like this, wear something like a secret medal under his shirt? And why did it look familiar? Mia's heartbeat quickened. She leaned forward, squinting, but the medal disappeared beneath the fabric before she could see more. Hey, new girl, the supervisor barked. Stop staring. You need to keep an eye on him. He's slowing down the whole floor. Mia felt heat erupt in her chest. But before she could speak, before she could defend him, Samuel finally lifted his head. Their eyes met. And in that instant, everything in Mia's world shifted, because Samuel's eyes widened, shocked, emotional, as if he knew her, as if he had been waiting years for her to recognize something. And Mia felt her breath hitch as a memory she didn't know she still had began clawing its way back to the surface. She had seen that medal before, but not around his neck, around her own. The moment crashed into her mind just as the supervisor yelled, "Samuel, my office, now!" Mia's heart was hammering in her chest as she watched Samuel walk toward the supervisor's office, each step heavy like a man being led to judgment he already expected. The warehouse noise returned, forklifts beeping, metal clinking, men shouting, but inside her, everything felt too loud, too sharp. She couldn't ignore the way he had looked at her. Not curiosity, not confusion, recognition, deep, painful recognition. She followed them with her eyes as the office door slammed shut. A second later, the yelling began, muffled, but loud enough to slice right through her. Every week it's something. The supervisor's voice boomed. Mistakes, slow work. I'm tired of covering for you, Samuel. Mia blinked hard. Covering. The man barely spoke to him except to insult him. She stepped closer, pretending to look at inventory forms pinned to the wall. But really, she was listening. Inside the office, Samuel's voice came quiet, steady. I didn't make any mistakes today, sir. Oh, really? The supervisor barked, dropping parts, distracting the new trainee. Mia's stomach twisted. It wasn't his fault. She knew that. Everyone knew that. But Samuel wasn't defending himself. He just stood there, absorbing the blame like he had absorbed everything else in his life. She pressed a hand to her chest, feeling guilt and something heavier, something older curl inside her. Why did his face feel familiar? Why did the metal around his neck feel like it belonged in her own memories? She didn't know what pulled her forward: curiosity, empathy, or the strange ache that started the moment she saw him, but her steps moved on their own. She pushed the office door open softly. The supervisor spun around. "What are you doing in here?" Mia swallowed hard. I heard raised voices. "I just wanted to check." "You don't need to check anything. This man needs discipline." Samuel looked up, his eyes soft but exhausted. "It's all right, Mia. You don't need to." But she cut him off. "No, it's not all right." The supervisor scoffed. "Look, new girl, you don't know how things work here." Mia took a shaky breath. "Maybe not, but I know he didn't do anything wrong." Samuel's eyes widened, not with pride, but with a wounded gratitude that tore at her heart. And then, as Mia stepped closer, anger trembling in her voice, she noticed the metal around Samuel's neck slip fully into view. Her breath stopped. Because carved into the back of that metal was something she recognized instantly: her own handwriting. Before she could speak, Samuel whispered, voice breaking, "Please, don't ask me about that here." And Mia realized, whatever truth that metal held was something powerful enough to scare even him. For a long second, no one moved. The air inside the tiny office felt thick, like the walls were holding their breath. Mia stared at the metal glinting beneath Samuel's collar, her pulse pounding in her ears. Her handwriting. She knew it was hers. She didn't know how, not yet, but her body reacted before her mind even caught up. A wave of cold recognition washed over her, a memory brushing against the locked door of her past like a whisper she wasn't ready to hear. The supervisor scoffed loudly. "Are you two done staring at each other like this is some kind of soap opera? Samuel, you're on thin ice. One more slip and you're out." Then he turned to Mia. "And you, focus on your job, not on him." Samuel opened his mouth as if to speak, but closed it again. Not because he agreed, because he was used to swallowing his truth. Mia wasn't. "That's not fair," she snapped, surprising even herself. "He didn't do anything wrong." The supervisor rolled his eyes. "You're new. You don't know his history." Samuel's shoulders tensed. Mia saw it, felt it. "What history?" she asked. The supervisor smirked. "Ask him. If he ever tells you." And then he stormed out, slamming the door behind him. Silence dropped like a heavy blanket. Samuel stood still, staring at the floor, his hands trembling so slightly that only someone watching closely like Mia would notice. She stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. "Samuel, please, look at me." He finally did. And Mia felt that strange memory pain again, like her heart was recognizing him faster than her mind. "Tell me," she whispered. "Why do you have something with my handwriting on it? Why did you look at me like you knew me?" Samuel swallowed, throat tight. "Mia, not here. Not now." She shook her head. "Then when?" "Because this isn't normal." "That metal, how do you have it?" She paused, breath catching. "No one else even knows I ever wrote on a medal." Samuel closed his eyes, his voice barely a breath. "You did. 12 years ago, at a park on a Sunday. You placed that medal in a donation box and whispered something. Something you thought no one heard." Mia felt her knees weaken. "What? What did I say?" He opened his eyes, pained, soft, remembering everything. "You said, 'I hope this goes to someone who needs it more than me.'" Her heart slammed so hard she almost dropped her clipboard. "That day," Samuel whispered, "you saved me." Mia stepped back, dizzy, overwhelmed. "How? What happened?" She choked. Samuel hesitated, his voice breaking. "I was homeless, Mia, and that medal was the first good thing anyone gave me in years." But before he could finish that sentence, a loud crash echoed from outside the office. Someone shouted, "Code Blue," on the floor. "Someone's hurt." And Mia's blood ran cold because the scream that followed was the supervisor's. The scream sliced through the warehouse like a jagged blade. Mia's breath hitched, her body jolting as the crash echoed again, metal against metal. A cry of pain, footsteps scrambling. She didn't even realize she had grabbed Samuel's arm until she felt the tension of his muscles under her trembling fingers. For a moment, his eyes locked onto hers, Wide with concern then, both of them rushed out of the office together. The scene on the warehouse floor was chaos. Workers stood in a loose circle, murmuring in panic. A forklift lay tilted sideways, boxes scattered everywhere. And in the middle of it, the supervisor lay on the ground, gripping his leg. Face pale with shock, he slipped. No, the crate fell. Call someone. Voices overlapped, rising like a wave of anxiety. But one voice cut through them all. Somebody help him. A worker shouted. Mia stepped forward immediately. But so did Samuel. Without hesitation, without anger, without pride, without bitterness, Samuel knelt beside the man who had insulted him minutes earlier. His hands moved with practiced calm. First, he stabilized the supervisor's leg. Then he checked his breathing. Then he shouted for someone to grab a first aid kit. His voice was firm, steady, commanding. A voice of someone who had done this before. A voice of someone who knew how to save lives. Mia watched him, stunned. How do you know all this? She whispered. Samuel didn't look up. Old training, he said softly. Old life. The supervisor groaned in pain, gripping Samuel's arm with desperation instead of hatred this time. His eyes, filled with shock and fear, met Samuel's. You're helping me, he whispered through clenched teeth. Samuel simply nodded. Pain is pain. Doesn't matter who feels it. Those words hit Mia like a punch to the chest. The man who had tolerated years of humiliation was now saving the man who caused it. A paramedic in training worker rushed over with a kit. Samuel guided him with precise instructions, never once faltering. When the immediate danger passed, the supervisor stared at him in disbelief, confusion mixing with shame. Why would you help me? He croaked. Samuel finally looked up, and in that moment, Mia saw something in his eyes, a softness, a strength, a wound, a memory, that made everything inside her shift. Because once, Samuel whispered, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it either. Mia's breath caught. This man wasn't just kind. He wasn't just patient. He was carrying a story, a deep, painful story, and she had only seen the surface. Before she could speak, one of the workers shouted, There's more. We found something under the forklift belonging to Samuel. Everyone turned. Samuel's face went pale. Mia's heart dropped. Whatever was under that forklift was about to change everything. The workers parted slowly, forming a narrow path as two men dragged out a smashed metal toolbox from beneath the forklift. Dust lifted into the air, mixing with the sharp smell of oil and tension. The box was dented, scratched, almost crushed entirely, yet something jingled inside it as they set it down. A small sound, metallic, familiar. Mia felt her throat tighten. She took a hesitant step forward just as the toolbox popped open, the damaged lid giving way with a crack. And then the warehouse went silent. Inside the box lay the metal, the same one Mia had seen around Samuel's neck. Except now, it wasn't around his neck at all. It was lying there, bent, scratched, dirty, like something that had been stepped on again and again. But the worst part wasn't the metal. The worst part was what lay beneath it. A folded, stained piece of paper, edges torn, creases worn soft from being opened 1,000 times. And on the front, in faded ink, was written a name, Mia Reynolds, age 10. Mia's heart plummeted so fast she felt dizzy. Her legs wobbled. Her breathing turned uneven. That's my name, she whispered. Whispers erupted around them. The supervisor stared in confusion, still clutching his leg. The workers turned to Samuel, wide-eyed. The world seemed to demand answers. Samuel stepped forward slowly, his expression a mix of fear and inevitability. He picked up the metal with trembling fingers, brushing off dirt with a gentleness that made Mia's eyes burn. I kept it safe, Samuel whispered. I kept it safe for 12 years. Mia could barely force her voice out. Why? Why would you keep something of mine? Why do you have something I gave away as a child? He didn't answer immediately. His chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. His eyes glistened not with shame, but with memories too heavy to lift alone. She stepped closer, voice trembling. Samuel, what is this? What's in the paper? The room leaned in. Forklift stopped humming. Even the lights seemed to still. Samuel unfolded the paper slowly, His fingers shook. Inside was a drawing, a childish drawing. A little girl Mia standing beside a tall man with deep brown skin and kind eyes. Above them, a crooked heart shape. Under it, a sentence written in the uneven handwriting of a 10-year-old. For the man who saved my mom's life, thank you. Mia's breath vanished. Her knees almost buckled. Her mom, she could barely whisper. Saved. My mom. Samuel's voice broke as he finally lifted his eyes. Yes, he said. Your mother? 12 years ago. She was dying. And I. His throat tightened. Tears slipped down his cheek. I carried her. I ran with her in my arms until help came. You gave me this medal because you said I was your hero. The room went dead silent. Mia's world shattered and rebuilt all in one heartbeat. But before she could speak, before she could process anything, someone from across the floor shouted, Mia, your mother is here. Her heart stopped. She turned. Her mother stood in the doorway, eyes wide, staring straight at Samuel. And in her mother's eyes was fear. Deep, shaking fear. What was she hiding? What did she know about Samuel that Mia didn't? Mia's breath froze in her chest as she turned toward the doorway. Her mother, Laura Reynolds, stood there gripping her purse so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Her eyes weren't confused. Her eyes weren't curious. Her eyes were terrified, not of the crowd, not of the chaos, but of Samuel. The same man who had just saved her supervisor. The same man who carried her mother in his arms 12 years ago. The same man who kept a medal like it was the last piece of hope he ever received. Mia felt her stomach twist painfully. Mom, why are you looking at him like that? She asked, voice trembling. Her mother didn't answer, didn't blink, didn't breathe. Samuel took a slow step forward, gentle, respectful, but Laura stumbled back as if she'd seen a ghost. Stay away, she whispered, voice cracking. Please, just stay away. A wave of confusion swept through the warehouse. Workers exchanged glances. Someone whispered, wasn't he the one who saved her? Another muttered, why does she seem scared of him? Mia shook her head, stepping protectively in front of Samuel. Mom, what's going on? He saved you, didn't he? Samuel lowered his gaze, pain flickering in his eyes. Let her speak, he said softly. Laura swallowed, tears gathering. Yes, he saved me. Her voice trembled like broken glass. But that day, it wasn't just me who needed saving. Silence smothered the room. Mia felt a chill crawl through her spine. What do you mean? She whispered. Her mother's lips quivered as she finally looked at her daughter. I never told you what happened before he rescued us. Samuel clenched his fists at his sides, bracing himself. Laura continued, voice shaking uncontrollably. Before he found me, I was with your father. He had been drinking. He lost control. Here her voice cracked. He attacked me, Mia. He left me bleeding on the sidewalk. Mia staggered back, her world tilting. And then, her mother choked. Your father turned on the only person who stopped to help us. All eyes swung towards Samuel. What? Mia breathed. Laura nodded. Tears falling freely. Your father hit him, twice, screamed at him, threatened him, told him to stay away from his woman even though Samuel was trying to call for help. Samuel finally lifted, his eyes filled with years of silent wounds. Mia covered her mouth, horrified. You got hurt because of us? Samuel exhaled slowly. Your father broke 2 of my ribs that night. A collective gasp rippled through the warehouse. Mia felt her legs weaken, her heart splinter, guilt claw its way up her throat. My God, she whispered, tears blurring her vision. All these years, you held onto my medal. Even after that, even though that night nearly killed you. Samuel's voice broke. You were just a little girl who gave a stranger hope. I never blamed you. Mia shook her head violently, tears streaming. But my father, he hurt you. Why didn't you report him? Why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell me? Samuel looked at her with the saddest eyes she had ever seen. Because, Mia, he whispered, his voice trembling, I saw you crying beside your mother. I couldn't add prison to your pain. The warehouse fell silent, but before anyone could speak, before the realization could fully settle, Laura whispered something that made Mia's blood run cold. There's more, Mia. He didn't just save me that night. He saved you too. Mia felt her heart stutter as her mother's last sentence echoed in the warehouse, vibrating through the concrete floor and shooting straight into her chest. He saved you too. Her breath tightened, her vision swirled, and for a moment she couldn't tell if she was standing or falling. Me, she whispered, her voice barely a sound. How? How did he save me? Laura pressed a trembling hand over her mouth, tears streaming uncontrollably now. Your father wasn't just hurting me that night. He was trying to take you away. He was drunk, violent, screaming that you didn't belong to me. Her voice cracked, the memory slicing her open. He grabbed you, Mia, hard. You were crying. You couldn't breathe, she sobbed, shaking her head. I thought he was going to hurt you too. Mia's knees buckled, but Samuel stepped closer, not touching her, just near enough that she felt his presence holding her up. Laura continued, voice broken, when Samuel tried to call for help. Your father attacked him, but he fought back not with fists, but with his body. He shielded you. He carried you both away from him. Mia turned slowly toward Samuel, tears spilling down her cheeks. He looked away, as if ashamed of being remembered for pain. You protected me, she whispered. You protected a stranger's child. Samuel finally met her gaze, eyes glistening with years of unspoken truth. You weren't a stranger, Mia. Not after you handed me that medal. You said I was your hero. He exhaled shakily. Those words kept me alive. Mia stepped closer, heart raw. Then why did you hide from me all these years? Samuel's voice trembled. Because I didn't want you to see what life turned me into. But Mia shook her head, reaching for him. You didn't turn into something. You survived it. Before Samuel could respond, a voice from the doorway boomed. Samuel Price, HR wants you immediately. And the fear in Samuel's eyes told Mia this wasn't good news. The warehouse felt colder than before as the HR voice echoed through the doorway. Every worker froze. Samuel stood still, not scared for his job, but scared of dragging Mia deeper into a truth he had spent years protecting her from. Mia stepped in front of him instinctively, her eyes blazing, her chest rising with fierce determination. He's not going anywhere, she said, voice shaking but strong. Not until you hear what he did for my family. HR hesitated at the doorway. Miss Reynolds, this is a company matter. No, Mia's voice cracked with raw emotion. This is a human matter. She turned to the workers. 12 years ago, my father hurt my mother. Samuel saved us, both of us. He carried me when I was crying. He risked his life to protect a woman he didn't know. She held up the medal gently. And I gave him this, because I was too young to understand how to thank a hero. A ripple of shock spread through the crowd. Even the men who mocked him lowered their eyes. Samuel swallowed, his voice barely a whisper. Mia, you don't have to. She cut him off. Yes, I do, because you spent 12 years carrying something that should have been shared. She turned to HR again. If anyone deserves punishment today, it's not him. It's every person who insulted him without knowing who he really was. HR glanced around, uncomfortable, the weight of the room pressing on his shoulders. Samuel, we weren't calling you in for trouble, he said finally. We wanted to talk about promoting you. Your record is spotless, and your actions today. He exhaled. You acted like a leader. Samuel blinked, stunned. Promoted. Me? Yes, HR said, effective immediately. A collective gasp spread across the floor. Samuel didn't move at first. He just stood there, breath shaking, heart full, eyes glistening. Mia stepped forward, placing the medal back in his palm. You never lost your worth, she whispered. You just forgot how bright it was, for the first time in years. Samuel smiled, soft, grateful, free. The warehouse lights flickered gently above them, catching the silver medal as Samuel held it close to his chest. The same medal a little girl once gave him in love, and a grown woman now returned in gratitude. Moral of the story: never judge a person by the work they do. Some carry scars you never saw, and some carry medals you forgot you gave.